Good morning, everyone. My name is Denise Diefenbach, and I use she, her pronouns, and I work in the Office for Equity and Diversity. And I'm very happy to invite you or welcome you to the summer 2022 Step Up Supervisor Orientation. Amanda, do you mind going to the agenda slide? Before we get started, I just wanted to do a very brief outline of how we're going to spend our time in the next hour and 20 minutes or so. You just were welcomed. And then I'll have the folks I've been working with to help coordinate the internships this summer. I'll have those team members each introduce themselves, and then we'll cover some updates and important information about the Step Up program. Our colleagues will discuss a little bit about working with minors and university policy around that. And then we'll have our colleagues from Human Resources talk more about the onboarding process for our interns this summer. And then at the end, we should have some time for question and answers before we wrap up. So with that, if the team would like to go ahead and introduce yourselves individually, and then we'll start after those, we'll get started with the Step Up updates. Jeremiah, would you like to go first?
Sure. I'm Jeremiah Brown. I'm a senior director at Achieve Twin Cities. I've been part of the Step Up program for 12 years, and I'm serving as the main contact for all the University of Minnesota internships for the summer ahead. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but we'll have a job coach assigned to the University of Minnesota as we get a little bit further along in our process. But for right now, any questions you have about your intern or the status of them, that's all me. So looking forward to sharing a little bit more in just a moment.
I can jump in. Hi, everyone. I'm Jasmine Danielson. I am the Youth Safety and Compliance Manager for the University of Minnesota. So I am here to support all of you in the great work that you're doing. And you'll hear more about the different pieces we have in place for you to ensure that you have a safe summer. I've been involved with Step Up, though, for almost 20 plus years in my nonprofit career, and I absolutely love this program. So thank you.
Amanda, Lori?
I was waiting for Lori to go, but I'm Amanda Klepp. I work in the office, I'm not in the office for conflict resolution. That's a past life. I currently work in human resources on the Morrill Hall Shared Services team. Just joined in October, and I work with my colleague here, Lori Young-Williams.
Thank you, Amanda. Lori Young-Williams, HR generalist in the Morrill Hall Shared Services team. Was working with Office of Equity and Diversity, but then we hired Amanda. Glad to have you on board, Amanda. So we're backing each other up here as we go through this presentation. Welcome.
Thanks. It looks like I am the only person here. Very, very exciting.
Actually, there's 26.
Oh, sorry. I can't see.
Yeah, it's hard when you're sharing the screen. And I was going to say, because we have
There.
26 people, I was
Good.
just going to introduce the presenters, if that's okay. No disrespect intended.
Please.
Perhaps when we get towards the Q&A, as you were asking questions, you can absolutely introduce yourself, if you guys don't mind, just so that we can make sure that we get through all of the material. Is that okay? Yes. Okay. Jeremiah, do you want to go ahead and get us started?
Absolutely. Really excited to be with you all, but even more excited to have you participating in this summer Step Up program with us. So grateful for the tremendous response we received from you and so many of your colleagues at the university looking to be part of our program and to have one of our great interns working with you this summer. So we had 37 jobs that were submitted to us. Some of those positions were canceled by the supervisors or the department leads. So we have 32 that we're working towards building for this summer. at this point, and I'll update a little bit further about exactly where we're at, but some of you have already received information about their placements and are able to start moving them forward. But I wanted to back up one snitch here, and you hopefully kind of saw the presentation we did, I think it was back in February. I got a chance to present along with some of my University of Minnesota partners here about our program. And we talked a little bit about the way that young people are prepared and get to this stage in our process, but I wanted to kind of just review that with folks very briefly. So all of the interns that we've matched into positions or will be matched into positions with the University of Minnesota are City of Minneapolis residents, meaning they live in the city limits. It doesn't matter what school they go to, but they must reside within the city. They're all ages 16 to 21. Most are 16, 17, 18 are like in high school or are just about to graduate from high school. None of them are in college right now. They're also all students who have been kind of needs tested. They're either low income or face another kind of barrier to employment. So this is a really meaningful experience that they're going to have to really build their professional skills through with you this summer. So those are the students, their profile, they kind of applied to us in February. We then have a work readiness training system that is certified by the Minneapolis Regional Chamber of Commerce, and students can actually earn academic credit for completing this, essentially a career readiness seminar. The period of that training for our students coincided with when Minneapolis Public Schools teachers were actually on strike. So we did have a kind of a dip in the level of completion of that. For that reason and some others that I shared out in earlier communication. So this is the first year ever where we were really like concerned about being able to match all the positions that were submitted to us. So something for us to really think about as we look towards 2023. But for this year, I kind of shared out with a lot of people that we were really committed to making most that we could possible, but we might not get to all of them. And so the students have been prepared. That includes like fairly good information about like the onboarding process. They should be ready to kind of move through that. They're prepared to do interviews with you. They're prepared with some of that kind of like mindset of the soft skills of you, of how to communicate with you in this professional workplace. That said, nothing like on-the-job training to really reinforce the kind of online training that we've been providing. So know that your role as a supervisor is crucial to that. We have thus far matched 19 of the 32 positions, matched and confirmed with the students. So what we do is we are very careful looking through all of our candidates to find what we believe to be the best match. We then kind of turn that over to a team of on our team that then calls the students, talks through what the position looks like, what the requirements are from the supervisor's perspective, what the schedule is, to the extent we have that information concretely from you. And also talks about like that onboarding process, the next steps to essentially confirm that that's going to work for the young person. And of course, the commute, we talk about the commute as well. So those 19 have been confirmed. I've shared those on to the supervisors, meaning that I still have about 13 more to go. So stay tuned. If you haven't heard, you should in the next week to week and a half is our hope to get those final confirmations out there to you. And right now, we're going to talk more about the onboarding next steps. I'll really leave that to my university partners about like how to move through that. But I think you should be reaching out to them, letting them know that you're interested in working with them and you're setting up that kind of that interview with them as soon as possible. We did provide in the placement communication a link to our Step Up Supervisor orientation materials. I believe that Denise and our partners may have also sent that out kind of separately to all of you if you haven't actually received your placement, so you have it there and can get started on those core orientation materials. There's some great videos. We want you to watch them all. There is a handbook as well, and that is chock full of resources. It'll be kind of like a guide for you as you go through the summer. You can reference back to it in an ongoing fashion. So all those are available to you. Be aware that we're working at level 2 of the program. That's the 16 plus age component of our program. So there's level 1 resources, there's level 2 resources. Please gear yourself to the level 2 resources there. I mentioned at the kind of in my introduction that I'm your main contact and kind of the organizer of our work with the University of Minnesota, but you will have a job coach. We're still working through some of our additional summer hiring and kind of some assigning of who that person will be. So do look for a warm introduction to that person, and they'll take over as kind of like the primary support to the supervisor and to the intern throughout the summer. That role of the job coach is really to provide ongoing kind of professional development tips to you as the supervisor, and also to the young person, also to really help navigate any challenges you might be having. One thing that we see is oftentimes that can creep up is that the professional and the personal start to get, they're always connected, but they really kind of, for a young person trying to figure out how to work through this first job experience in a professional way, there's things that are going to pop up in their personal life that aren't really your realm as supervisor to be working through with them. And that's a great job for the job coach. So if they're having problems getting to work because of, whether their ride fell apart or their buses are changing and things like that, we're here to support those types of issues, as well as any performance issues that are popping up for you. So make use of your job coach. Transit passes, common question. Yes, we provide transit passes, bus passes to all of the students that are slated for in-person or hybrid work experiences. I will be delivering those to, I think, Denise and team, and then they'll be kind of delivering those out to all of your sites. And so be looking for those, I believe, in the inter-office mail or something like that. And it'll come with very careful instructions that we want you to follow, which is essentially to make sure that you're giving the right pass to the right student and having them sign off saying that they have received it. That is for reasons that then we can kind of track back with them. If there's a lost pass, we can cancel that pass and replace it. It's a little bit of a process, but if we don't know which pass was lost, then we have no way of rectifying that situation. So those transit passes should be available and in your hands by that first Monday of work, which is going to be, for most people, it's on the 27th is the Monday, I believe it is. Yes, the 27th of June. And that's the transit passes. And I believe that's my intro orientation of where we're at. I'll be sticking around for any Q&A support I can provide at the closing part of the session here.
Great. Well, again, welcome everyone. I see a few familiar names, but my name is Jasmine Danielson. I'm the Youth Safety and Compliance Manager. And I am, if you could go, so this is my direct contact information. Please reach out to me with anything related to youth safety and compliance policies, emergency situations, COVID, things like that. That's what I deal with. So again, that's my information, and I have to actually jump off this call in about 10 minutes. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me and we can keep rolling here. So you are a part of an awesome network. There's over 350 programs associated with the University of Minnesota, and we serve over 250,000 youth annually. So thank you. And I have to say, youth employment is one of my favorite. As you all know, you're making a huge impact on confidence. You're exposing them to the university and potential careers, skill development, leadership, networking, which is huge, making connections with adults and other people, healthy risk-taking, economic support. So again, thank you for taking on this extra responsibility among everything else that you currently do. So I wanted to start off with a quick thank you. So the three main pieces that I am here to help you with, you're not in this alone, but the safety of minors policy. If you're not familiar with it, please get familiar with it. You can just go ahead and Google it, safety of minors, U of M, and everything should pop up. And it goes through all the different areas that you should be, thinking about as you're thinking about training and registering your program, etc. In the past, Step Up has not been as involved with the safety of minors. We've kind of put it in a different category, but we are viewing this as a high quality youth development program that just happens to be employment. So again, this is going to fall under the safety of minors policy, and I'll go through that a bit more. I'm also going to share a few best practices with you and then some support. So the policy, if you look at the policy, again, it's organized very well. there is a section within the policy that's called health and safety requirements. Sometimes people skim through that, but there's actually a link in the policy that'll bring you to, a set of very specific practices regarding health and safety. So again, I just wanted to highlight that. As you're looking through the policy, make sure to click over and read those health and safety requirements. We are asking you to also register on Youth Central. Again, this is all in the policy. And this is our central database so that the university can really document all of the programs that are taking place, when, where, how, who's responsible. So again, please register on Youth Central. It should take you about 5 minutes. When you go to Youth Central, I actually have a very specific step up employment program button to click first. And so that'll bring you to the set of questions that I want to know. We are also asking for you to do a safety of minors training. It's about 13 minutes. It's really quick. And this is good for 3 years. So once you take this, you do not need to take it next year, etc. This is really great. It goes over all the safety of minors policies for the university, boundaries, mandated reporting, all of that great stuff. So again, make sure that all of the folks that are working directly with your intern are taking the safety of minors training. Background checks, those are already covered. And then mandated reporting. As you all know, since you are working with a vulnerable population, if you suspect or hear anything related to emotional abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, you are mandated by law to report that. And this is all covered in our policy as well as in the safety of minors training. But I just wanted to reiterate those points. So best practices, I just wanted to pull out a few. Emergency procedures. Sometimes as adults, we know them in our head and maybe the other adult staff. And this is also in the handbook that Jeremiah referenced. And I have to say that handbook is awesome. I looked through it and it's very well put together, very high quality. But please make sure that your youth, your interns also know about the emergency procedures. So this is something that you could walk through them with them on the first day or sometime during the first week. They should know all about the exits. Active threat. Unfortunately, this is now a reality of someone coming into our space. And so make sure your young person knows what to do. And if you are like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to do, please reach out to me. I'm actually offering an emergency preparedness training on Friday. So if that's something that you just want to do, please reach out to me. You can join. I will email that to you. Who do the young people go to if they do have a concern or incident? Again, sometimes us adults skip over this, but if the young person feels uncomfortable or there's something going on, who can they go to report that? So make sure that you have someone identified and that the intern knows that piece. Let's see here. This is also in the handbook, but I just wanted to reiterate it. I think it's really important. Make sure that the young person also knows what is expected of the staff, right? A lot of times we talk to the adults, but we also want the young people to know what's expected of the staff. So again, there's no sharing of personal social media information, no personal phone numbers, not meeting outside of work hours. I know that personal phone hours can get a little gray if there's something that you need to communicate, but always make sure that there's more than one person in that communication loop. So if you are texting or something, an intern, you're including someone else on your staff team. Not meeting outside of work hours, and trying your very best not to be one-on-one with your intern. And I know sometimes this just happens. And I'm going to go over some guidelines just to protect you as well as the intern if you do find yourself in a one-on-one situation, which could happen in these employment types of environments. So I'll go over that right now here, I think. The next, yes. So again, try to avoid being in a one-on-one situation. We say this because in that situation, privacy increases and control increases and risk increases. So again, we want to try to decrease those pieces. And so therefore, we want every interaction to be observable or interruptible by other people. Sorry for that typo there on the screen. So if you are meeting with an intern, make sure your door is open. Make sure maybe other staff, hey, I'm meeting with so-and-so, we're gonna go over their schedule. Or, you know, let's meet out here. Let's meet out here in kind of this entryway, it's a little bit more open. Again, make sure, yeah, doing check-ins with interns. Exactly. Thank you, Molly. Make sure that people know what you're doing. People, again, it's observable, it's interruptible at all times. And we have more specific guidelines in some of the materials. It's actually not in our policy yet, but it's coming. So if you have more questions on this, please let me know. And sorry, I'm going through this kind of quickly because I have to run, but just a couple additional guidelines. Really be proactive. Try to identify, just like Molly said, when those one-on-ones could happen. Hey, we do check-ins, or we do reflection at the end of each day, or I'm going to go over their time card the first week. Think, you know, be proactive, think of those spaces, and then how can you involve other people? Again, involve your supervisor, choose public settings. And when you are in those spaces, really use appropriate contact. So if you're kind of a side hugger, maybe you don't do that during those more one-on-one-ish situations. So just be really, you know, have your eyes and ears open to those types of environments. And really document everything. If you are communicating with your young person or you're meeting, just document things. Make sure your team is well aware of everything taking place, because we also want to protect you. Only 4% are false allegations, but we want, you know, we don't want a young person to say something happened and it didn't. So make sure you're documenting everything as far as communication, meeting, etc. And support. So you all, hopefully you're okay with this, but you're going to be added to the pre-college network. This is an awesome group of adults across our 5 campuses. We get together quarterly, virtually, and share what's happening. Again, best practices, challenges, hiring, etc. If you want to stop being a part of that after your intern is done, I can certainly take you off, but it's a great, great group to be a part of. collegeready.umn.edu is our website. So if you go to that, you can see guidelines for virtual programming, in person. Again, the Step Up program is covering everything, but if you're just kind of curious what we're saying here at the university, check out that website. Again, the safety of minors policy, please take a look at that policy and be familiar with it. And then always reach out to me if you're wondering about something or a situation you're just not quite sure of. I just had 3 emails today on COVID and outbreaks and things like that. Just FYI, we are not required to report any COVID related items. That phase in the pandemic has ended. Masks are lifted. All of those social precautions have been lifted. So again, any sort of questions like that, you can feel free to send my way. So I'm sorry that was kind of quick. I'm gonna keep rolling here, but again, if you have any questions, let Denise know. And thank you, Jeremiah, for all that you're doing. We're really happy to partner with you. Again, Step Up is an awesome, awesome program. So thanks, everybody, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Jasmine.
Thanks.
Lori, before you start, I just wanted to note that we are recording this session, and you'll be able to, direct questions directly to Jasmine after this as well. So just wanted to mention that.
Okay, well, we'll get started on the onboarding piece here. Amanda and I are going to tag team, so you'll hear my voice than hers, or what have you. So all of this information, don't know how much, it's pretty in-depth and it's pretty dense. This slide, as Denise had been saying to us before, but need to get this information to supervisors for those of you who are familiar or not familiar with the hiring process. So basically the department placement, you'll get the notice, and once that's received, the department needs to contact the student via email, and you need to send them the HRIF form or the HRI form. And there's a link to that. And then we need to do the I-9 online information link. Make sure that you're sending that in the email as well. This is all prior to their first day of work. The Step Up student is a temporary appointment, so we are coding this for those of you who may know, but we are coding this as a temp casual appointment. So really a temporary appointment, excuse me. It's just habit to say temp casual. So anyways, it's the job code of 0001. So there'll be a temporary employee. And the effective dates for that appointment. So if you need to get this information to your HR person within your department, the effective date is June 27th through August 19th. They need to set the person up as getting $15 an hour. And the minimum that they can work is 15 hours per week. There's a 15 plus, so I'm assuming the minimum is 15. And then of course the work schedule then will be arranged per the department. So we'll just, but again, the date or the times are 8 to 4:30. We don't want folks working outside of that. So Amanda, if you want to flip the screen, and if this is a continuation, I can keep going. Oh no, you get the woohoo, you get the I-9.
Okay, yeah. So really, this is just an example of an email that can be sent to the students regarding the I-9 process, which just shares with them all the requirements that they're going to have to complete. So going online, filling out the first part of the I-9 application, if you will. And then when they come on their first day of work, they're going to have to bring in their actual physical documents. So photocopies are not accepted. You will all have a copy of this presentation. So this language here can be used in the email that you send out to them, and or Lori or I can assist you if you need to. Just reach out to one of us and we'd be happy to help. So this is just some standard language that we send out to any new employee regarding the I-9 process. But the biggest thing is that they have to bring them on day one, and they have to be actual documents. Typically, the most common things that people bring in would be their driver's license and a social security card, or their driver's license and a birth certificate, or just a passport if they have one. So there
And
are
they can
other.
also bring in their student ID. So their high school student ID, if they've got one, and a birth certificate, so it's a picture ID and then your social security card and the birth certificate. And passport, man, if the kid's got a passport, they're rocking. That is the strongest ID that you have. So just wanted to point that out.
Yep, it's one and done with that one. So I can take the next slide if you want. All right. Okay, so with the onboarding process, talking about their first day of work, some things to complete. So Lori and I are gonna, I believe, work on a way to kind of have a group I-9 process on day one, so that we can meet with all the interns as they come in for their first day of work and verify their documents, and then make sure that they're all set up in the system correctly. Again, if they don't have these documents by day one, they cannot start working on day one. So it's very important that we get these emails out to them as soon as possible, and so that they're aware of what the process is and what the expectations are. I believe Jeremiah and their team is going to help with that as well, making sure that the interns understand what they're going to have to bring with them on day one. But communications from us at the university is really helpful as well. So day one, we're going to want to go through the explaining to the students about their employment or their employee ID number and their X500, what they are and how to set them up. And so we're gonna talk about some tech help in the next couple slides here too. But again, all of you are gonna have a copy of these very content heavy slides to be able to reference back to but Lori and I will do our best to hit all the points here. You'll want to assist the student with getting them set up through the technology helpline and making sure that they have access to their MyU account, because some of the things that they're going to want and going to have to know about is the My Time tab and then the My Pay tab. So My Time is where they're going to submit their hours each week. And so you can kind of walk them through how that works. And then the My Pay tab is going to be really important because some students may or may not have a direct deposit. But if they do, it's good to get it set up right away so that their first paycheck can be directly deposited into their accounts. If they don't, then you just want to make sure that they have an up-to-date home address in the system and verifying that with them in MyInfo, just making sure that they're taking a look and saying, yep, that's the right address, because their paychecks would then be sent to whatever address we have on file at that time. W-4 form, they're going to want to also fill that out. And so that is under their My Pay tab. Giving the students a copy of a payroll calendar can be really helpful because it is interesting even to adults that start work sometimes that there might be a delay in how they get their pay. So we'll take a look at the different pay periods that are going to be applicable to these students, or I shouldn't say students, to these employees, to these interns that are going to be on campus. Sorry, I'm used to talking about students. So making sure that they have that, and then they can see when their first paycheck is going to be coming, and then can plan accordingly for the other paychecks. And finally, kind of to a lot of what Jasmine had talked about, it is good that they also, we have access to someone that we can contact in the event of an emergency on campus. So having them take a look at their My Info tab on MyU and making sure that their emergency contact information is up to date. You also want to check your own, just as a little plug. We should all have emergency contact information in our MyU account, but it is really essential as they start that they have somebody identified there that we can contact if something were to occur. And I'll check the chat here. I see that some things have come through. Oh, Laurie, you're on it. Okay, sounds good. So, oh.
Do you want me to do this one, or are you going to take this one?
You go right ahead.
Okay. So entering the work hours online, and this is again through the MyU Time tab, or my Time, I think it is, My Time tab. So I'm not sure if folks are familiar with it, and some of you may be. So we would have you just read through this and work through it on the My Time tab. And you're going to want to click the submit time. And then on that, you can view the calendar, the pay period, either by week or by the calendar period. I think this might be, and I'm not sure, Denise, if Dawn had like another screen going on that actually went through this, because as I'm reading through this, I think it might make more sense if we actually had the actual timesheet up in front of us. But I'm
No,
going to keep going.
Yeah, she didn't.
She didn't. Okay. So moving on to number 3, you're going to want to use, find the date that the student's starting. Thank God they're starting on a Monday. So that's always helpful versus the middle of the week, because that can get challenging for supervisors and students included, or excuse me, interns included. So starting on Monday, they're going to report their time in, and they need to report their time out if they're taking lunch. And then they got to report their time in again after lunch, and then their time out for the day. So you're going to see in, out in the middle, and in, out in the end. So if they are only working maybe 4 hours for that first Monday, and maybe that's going to be their schedule for the summer, they really need to pay attention to the in, the first in, and that last out. Don't do the in and out here. Otherwise, they will get overpaid because the system is going to think, oh, well, this person never punched out. So just remember shorter time frame, the in and the out, or if they're going to do a full day, to make sure that they put in their lunch break, because Lord knows we all worked hard for the lunch break. All right, then we want to move on to the time reporting code, and that will just be regular time that they enter. When they click submit for the day, and they should do this daily. We do suggest that the interns enter their time daily, but totally get it if things don't work out. But for the least, I mean, the most they should wait, I would think, would be a week. If they could get Monday and Friday, take care of it on Friday, so then you, the supervisor, will then be able to go in and approve the time. So they're going to click submit, and the time is entered, and it will go to you. If you choose to check your supervisor tab every day and sign off on and approve the time, you can definitely do that. I think it's a little difficult, Amanda, to talk about when to have everything done. So I'm just going to say, if you could have the interns submit their time Friday of every week, then we'll make sure that they don't get missed as far as being paid. So, and as it says there, you must enter your time daily after every shift worked. But I know that sometimes life can get busy. Life is busy. So if they miss it a day, they just need to make sure that it's definitely done weekly. So, all right, I think go ahead.
Lori, if I can just
Go
reiterate
ahead, Amanda.
to everyone, lunch break is typically 30 minutes in an 8-hour shift, right? And then there's 2 15-minute breaks in an 8-hour shift as well. Or if it's only 4 hours, as Lori had mentioned before, they should have a 15-minute break, but that's paid. The 2 15-minute breaks are always paid, but the lunch break is unpaid.
Correct. Yep.
There was just a question in the chat for that. So.
Oh, sure. And I know that most of us as staff, we have combined our 2 15 minutes with our half hour to give us the 1 hour lunch. But if with students, they may need to, interns, the interns may need to take the 15-minute breaks as they're getting into what a work day is like. Because man, I remember that myself.
Yeah.
Like, how do people do this without taking a break? So Denise, did you have a question?
No, you guys go ahead.
Okay, so next slide. I think we're ready for the next slide. And here are the pay dates, the calendar, always nice to know. I think we just know as staff at the U, it's every other Wednesday. So the interns are starting on that second week of a pay period. So their first check will be half a check, if you want to say that. And then again, the last pay period that they'll be working will be the first week of a pay period. So again, they'll be getting half a check on September 7th. So those are the dates, which is always good to know. And the interns are always appreciative of getting those. I'm gonna get this down here before I'm done.
Me too. All right. I think this is you, Denise.
Oh, sorry. Some of you may recall early in the call to invite members of the university community to consider hiring an intern. The Office for Equity and Diversity, with the support from the President's Office, has a limited amount of funding available to support departments that might just need a little extra funding help to pay for an intern. So those decisions have been made, and this information is pertinent to those who will be receiving the supplement. So basically, the departments are expected to charge the step-up payroll to their EFS string for the length of the internship. And so if you don't intend to have your intern work through the 26th, that's fine. August 26th, the full 6 weeks or 8 weeks. Anyway, that's fine. But those are the dates. And then your payroll department should email a copy of the year-to-date distribution report for the intern to our finance partner. His name is Jeremy Schwans, and his contact information is there. And again, note that this slide deck will be shared with you in an email, so you'll have all of this information available. And then at the end, and by no later than September 30th, the year-to-date should be sent to Jeremy, and then the funding supplement will then post as a payroll retro to your department's EFS stream. And he's slated November 22. That's when he'll make sure that gets taken care of. Earlier, Lori, you asked me if I had a question, and I just wanted to note that most of the departments, are working obviously with their respective HR partners with, getting your intern onboarded and with the new hire paperwork and all of those things. It's my understanding, Lori and Amanda, you're not doing that onboarding for every department. So just to make that note, you should be working with whomever your HR team is for any assistance that you need with these parts of the process. So that's it.
Thank you for that clarification. Yes, when you're in HR, you just assume the responsibility.
Yeah. And, obviously working with your HR partner, this is their wheelhouse. They know exactly, they speak that language. So a lot of this should be pretty straightforward.
Exactly. Okay, great.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so as far as these next two slides are going to be information just about getting the student set up technology wise. And again, it's going to be helpful just for you to have this available to you after this presentation, just to kind of refer to making sure that your student is able to sort of use and see this information prior to getting their account set up. So they are temp casual or IATSE employee. That's a little bit more information that you need to know. They're temporary appointments. But when the student does contact the tech helpline by calling them on their first day, which is how they really should go about setting up the process. And by the way, technology help is going to be aware of the fact that the Step Up program is occurring and that students will be calling in to get their information set up with them. And it will take about 15 to 20 minutes. So just plan that into day one for your student. And you as a supervisor should be with the student during that time, or at least accessible for them to answer any questions that they might just not know how to answer should technology help ask them something that they're like, I just don't know, right? Remember, it's day one, they're going to be a little nervous and they're not really going to understand everything that they're trying to say to them. But giving them this information here, letting them know that, activating your internet ID at the university is going to allow you to do the following, right? And it kind of shows them what they're going to be able to do there. Letting them know that they're going to be asked and need to know the following information and fill in these blanks, right? Underneath the 1 through 5 at the bottom there. Having an online access to a computer during the setup. So then you're going to just make sure that you have 15 to 20 minutes. Make sure they know their name. Of course, they're going to know their name, but maybe just having this all scripted out for them with the information so that they can answer any questions that the IT department is going to need, right? Just have these things written out for them day one, and as much as we can set them up for success and taking these professional steps that they would have to do with any other new position is good. So perhaps before the call, have them write down all the information that they're going to need, and then they can just read it off to IT as they go through the checklist. So having this also printing out what you must do and say when you're getting on the call here. When you finally get the representative on the line, make sure you say, I'm a new employee, and then I need to reset my password. I won't go through all of these individually. I don't think it's necessary for us to do, but again, this is going to be a resource for you to have printed out and ready for your students so that they feel comfortable making this phone call to a stranger on the other line and trying to get something technological set up for them. And again, having yourself or someone nearby so that you can assist should they not understand what's being asked of them or know the answer to it. I think I'll leave it there unless you have anything to add to this, Lori.
Nope, just this page and the page prior, they go together. It just couldn't get it all on one page, and you probably wouldn't want us to get it all on one page. But it'll make sense once the person sits down with all of their information and they call one help and get it all taken care of. So
Lots of process here at the U.
I think, we don't have very many slides to go through, but because this is so much detail, I'm wondering if we could pause for a moment to see if folks have any questions before we continue.
I'll take one that was in the chat about the intern's age and how to know that. So that is not something that we generally provide like in the placement communication, is their date of birth or their current age. I will double check this, but I just sent Denise a file with all the students that we have matched to date. And I believe the date of birth is on there. If not, I can easily add that to that file moving forward. The other best way to know that would be like in the hiring process itself, as you're like seeing their actual documents and being able to flag it. So if that's too late in the process, then I think that either Denise and I can work out a way for like her to let people know if they're working with a minor or over 18 student, or for me to do that as part of the kind of confirmation of placement moving forward.
Any other questions, burning questions from our participants?
Well, the participants think about other questions. I'll share a couple other things that I wanted to maybe reinforce or respond to in what's been shared so far. One from Jasmine's presentation around making sure that we're being safe and secure in the way that we manage all of our relationships with these young people. One of the points there was about not sharing your personal phone number, which I think is good guidance. I wanted to bring it up as part of a very common question we have coming up with students is like, I'm late, who do I let know and how do I let them know? Or I'm sick, how do I let people know? And so as you think about that, do really set a good plan with your intern of what they should do when they're not feeling well. And that kind of goes to a larger point, which is probably like, don't assume that these students like have an understanding of what they should naturally do when they're running a little bit late, or if they're not feeling well, and when the right time to communicate that is. So you'll see in the supervisor orientation materials, a lot of like getting like set up for that first week, setting expectations with them. Take your time with those things about how to communicate and when to communicate. As we're touching on student pay and payroll, that is the #1 question we get from our students is, when will I get paid? Why did I not get paid when I thought I was going to get paid? Why did I get paid this amount when I've actually worked this length of period? So just to emphasize, do take time to walk through that payroll schedule and tell them what they can anticipate, and then even anticipate it's a payday. I'll probably get some students asking questions about when it'll arrive, and then you'll get questions about like, I thought I worked 40 hours, why did this only show 20? And you're like, well, that's just because that's that week and not the full 2-week period. So do anticipate those questions, and please be patient as these young people get a sense of how that whole process goes. Onboarding paperwork, hiring paperwork is a lot. Even for adults, it can be a lot. Certainly is a lot for our students. We've talked with them about the documents they need to present. We've talked about what the I-9 and the W-4 look like. It is still going to be a challenge for them when they sit down to actually fill it out. So having an adult support person there with them is crucial. The W-4, they never know what to do for what their withholdings should be. So it really does kind of take somebody kind of sitting down and making sense of that document with them. I actually have done this a lot in my professional experience, and I actually was just doing it with my own teenage daughter recently. So no, that's a very common hurdle for our students. And the only other thing that I have in my notes, if someone I want to respond to, is we're talking about the schedule and the kind of work break that they will have for lunch and otherwise. 8 hours is a very long day. That came up in this little thread here. Interns are going to find that out really quickly when they have their first 8-hour day. I would really recommend taking it slow in that first week and letting things kind of like build. Students are often anxious to earn, and they're anxious to have this experience. And so they'll say, give me hours, give me 40 hours. They're going to find out that 40 hours is an awfully lot, that getting through an 8-hour workday is awfully long. So encourage for your good and for their good to kind of like start at a lower number, build towards that, start at a 6-hour shift before you get to an 8-hour shift. That will make everybody's lives a little bit more enjoyable this summer.
There were a couple questions in the chat that, I'm sorry, Jeremiah, were you good? Okay. A couple questions that came through. The first one was, what about setting up a Google Voice number for yourself and for the student? Is that okay? I think that at least from my point of view, would be a better, probably better answered by Jasmine and what guidance she might give. So I encourage you, Molly, to email her that, and we can also let her know that you asked that question.
Amanda, I'm gonna actually, so that Jasmine doesn't get inundated with a bunch of emails, I'm going to basically take all of these questions, get the answers, and send them in an email with the recording and with the slide deck. So that's why I was asking everyone, just go ahead and throw your questions in the chat. If we don't get to answer them all, I will make sure that they get answered via email.
Oh, okay. So we won't answer questions right now and just keep.
No. We will answer questions now, but if there are questions that we don't have time to answer, or maybe in this example, we want to consult with Jasmine, then I'll follow up with those answers. I just don't want Jasmine to be inundated with a lot of emails.
Great. The other question was, are all students vaccinated for COVID? And so that is something that I don't believe we added to this PowerPoint, but they will be required to provide proof of vaccination or exception on day one of employment here at the University of Minnesota. So that is something that we're going to have to add to, and thank you for
good catch,
pointing that out. I was thinking about that as we started the presentation. I'm like, ooh, I don't think we added that, but that is something we absolutely need to add to the day one paperwork. And so before we send out the slides to everyone, we can update the slide about what needs to be included in that first point of contact from the supervisor to the interns.
That is a great question. I wanted to address it a little bit in terms of what to expect from our students and what we've done with them around this question of COVID and the vaccine. So we have not required students to show proof of vaccination. And what we are doing instead is we've asked them if they would be comfortable working in a workplace that required the vaccination. And so that was something we asked them kind of like in a form that they filled out with us some time ago. It was pre-placement information for us. And that was also something that was part of our confirmation calls with the students to say, this workplace, University of Minnesota, is going to require this when you get through the hiring process. Are you comfortable working in that type of environment? So we haven't asked them if they're vaccinated because we're trying to make sure we're staying on legal ground. But that should not be an issue. In a few cases, we've heard from students that they have some concerns, and those actually don't get confirmed back to you. So our assumption is no problem in showing COVID vaccines cards. If they're having problems finding that document or anything like that, that's a great job coaching step-up question. We can help resolve that with the young person.
All right, looks like I don't see any other questions. We want to go ahead and go to the next slide. Amanda, I think.
I did. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Laura, do you want me to go or do you want? I'll go. Okay. All right. Some getting to know things. So, you know, we do spend some time, especially today, talking about things not to do or maybe to be aware of with students, but some things that would be really good to do on day one. And these are just helpful hints on appropriate conversations to have with them is what got them interested or why did they want to get involved with the Step Up program? That's a great question to ask the students. Asking them to share something that they like about themselves, or what do they think is a strength? You know, this will be, and I think this is more intended actually to just try and make them feel more make the work environment feel more inclusive for everyone, things like that, so that you're genuinely showing interest in them and what brought them here and what their likes or their interests are. Since being in the program, what have they learned regarding, so this might be like halfway through the program, you might want to ask, you know, what they've learned with regards to being prepared for the workforce, and what they've learned that they did not know prior to being in the program. You know, follow-up questions throughout their time with you as well. And then is there any particular new skill that they would like to learn during their work experience over the next 8 weeks? Because perhaps you have a wide range of things that you could have the student do. So asking them for input on what would be of interest to you out of these things is a good thing to do.
And then, of course, we want 4 things for them to take away, you know, on the first day, the first week, because there is so much to learn the first day. So they should know their supervisor's name, the working title, and contact information. So if you have a business card, definitely give them that. I know that the young ones don't do paper as much as I love paper. So they may just put it in their phone and then off they go. So make sure that they know supervisor's name, working title, and contact information. A written job description, that'd be great. Make sure that they have that, send that electronically to them. Again, kids don't do paper, shouldn't say kids, the interns don't do paper as much. And then one new skill from their work experience. What's one new thing that they've learned that day or that week? Also ask the supervisor if they would serve as a reference in the future. So is there, you know, you might even want to have the student prep, like, would you be willing to be my reference as I'm seeking employment opportunities in the future? So some 4 takeaways for the interns as they're coming here in the university. And as folks know, the university is a large institution, so many departments, so many different units. So there's room for them to grow if they're interested, you know, in some things that are happening in the medical school and they want to get more precise. Definitely, I always kind of see Step Up as a way, as kind of like a conduit to get the kids in, the interns in, and see the different facets of what is out there and what they can choose to do with their lives. So,
yeah. Thanks, Lori. I really appreciate kind of the switching to all these great things we can be doing with the young people to have these conversations. I wanted to just name that our supervisor orientation materials in our handbook are chock full of these things.
Yeah.
Our job coach will send you weekly communications saying, like, here's some good things to be talking about at this stage. And so it's all of the above that we've talked about here. These reflection conversations, what are you learning, what are you taking away? A lot of, you know, exploration questions too, like we want these students to do job shadows, we want them to do informational interviews. So as Lori's saying, if they come to you and they're like, oh, this is my job, it's kind of interesting what I'm interested in, but I think I'm even more interested in this. You are in this amazing University of Minnesota with just about infinite amounts of opportunities for people to learn about different careers. You basically have all the jobs that exist in the world at the University of Minnesota. So take advantage of that opportunity. You can make some really rich connections for these young people. And so just to name, there's a lot of great resources, and we're going to kind of like give them to you all up front, but also kind of like feed them to you on a regular basis over the course of the summer to keep you on track. And on this note, I'll also just highlight, we will have a Step Up end of summer celebration. We want all of our interns to be there. We want you, the supervisors, the mentors, the kind of people who have stood by them and their coworkers to come out and show up with us. We're excited to do this back in person for the first time after only issuing videos for the last couple of years. So tentatively, it'll be the last Thursday of our program, which is, I believe, the 25th. That is still tentative, but it's tentatively that date at the Guthrie Theater. More to come in communications.
Love that place.
Hey, I would like to also add, in addition to this just being a wonderful opportunity for the students to gain employment experience and have some career exploration, if you will, but it's also potentially an opportunity for them to consider the university as a place to study when they graduate. So I think that's another aspect that I love about the program, and the fact that our university community is supporting it, because it's a win-win for the students. So I just wanted to mention that as well.
All right, and then the last slide, oops. The resources page, and then this last slide is this, thank you. That's okay, Amanda, just stay right there. So, new employees, compliance, and I'm not, oh, there we go. For the I-9, we need to have, everybody needs their I-9 done before they can start. So that, I know that can be a challenge, but we really do need the I-9 to be filled out. I mean, and it can be done that day, but it needs to be done that day. So if they in a flurry forgot their IDs on their first day, we'll talk them down. It's not a big deal. If they want to go back home and get the identification, they can, and then come back. Or if it would be too much of travel, they can just start the next day. But they do need to have the I-9 done and completed on the first day per university policy. I know that everybody else gets 3 days, but the university goes by a 1-day policy. Amanda, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I mean, this is obviously just driving home the point that we talked about earlier. It's just something that's missed, not just by young people, but also by adults too. So it's an important part. Day one, physical documents, no photocopies. The more that we can let the young people know before they start their position with your departments about this requirement, the better. Not that you need to send them the policy exactly, but just reiterating that they need to bring their documents with them and their vaccination cards or vaccination exceptions. Day one.
Amanda and Lori, I don't know, forgive me if you talked about it and I just missed it, but did you guys talk about the background checks?
We did not. No, we didn't, but we can.
Yeah, I think you should.
Yep. So Lori and I are going to kind of tag team the background check process for this. So you all, if you haven't had one in the last year, will be receiving a link from us from HireRight to have a background check completed, because you'll be working with minors. It's important that and then if there's anyone in your departments that you foresee as possibly or for sure going to be working with these individuals one-on-one, especially, or for an extended period of time, we need to also do a background check on those individuals. The students themselves will receive a background check as well prior to starting with you, and Lori and I are going to be sending that information out to them and making sure that those background checks are completed. But it's really important, especially for any current university employees, you as supervisors, or anyone that's going to be working with these, not students, interns, it's important that we do a background check or make sure that your background check is timely.
Is current. Yep.
Current.
That's what we need to do. Yeah.
And also just note that the Office for Equity and Diversity is going to cover the cost for the background check. So you don't have to worry about that.
All right.
Thank you.
Mhm. I think this is to you, Denise, maybe?
Oh, sorry.
Can I
Yeah.
ask a quick question?
Of course.
So my name is Ellie. I'm from Institute of Engineering and Medicine. This is all great information. With regard to the work hours, is it strictly 8 to 4:30 and they must complete their work hours within that time frame? No weekend work, no evening work?
So I'll answer, I'll give a step up answer and then you'll get a University of Minnesota answer. Step up answer is that we have kind of, based on what you submitted in the job description, those are the core work hours that we've presented to the young person. And so in most of the university positions that I've seen, it's been kind of like that Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 type of time period. However, there's nothing that bars you from working with a young person into the evening or having them work on the weekend. We would want to make sure you're communicating that very clearly with the young person, that change of schedule. And if there are kind of like very unique, and you can kind of like run these hypotheticals past me if you want, but like we sometimes want to let the parent know as well if there's a very unique schedule or a change of work site, for example. Normally they go to this part of the campus and instead you're going to send them over to the St. Paul campus for the day. We want to make sure that we're keeping these parents as well in the loop on some of that information. And we would want you to work with us to generally do that or work through the student versus having you directly in communication with the parents.
And I was asking mostly, not that we would require them to work outside of those hours, but what if they requested that they couldn't get a task done and they, you know, say, can I work on this over the weekend? Do we say, well, no, just wait until Monday and, you know, pick it up then?
That's what I would recommend. I think,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
these internships, from my perspective, really how they're structured is up to each individual unit and supervisor based on the needs of the position. And just to echo what Jeremiah said, to make the most important thing is to be consistent with what you submitted in the JDF, because that's what the student is sort of agreeing to. It doesn't mean you can't shift or adjust that a little bit, but just that the communication is very, very clear. And not just verbally, but I would also follow it up in writing with the student. So that way, you know that you've communicated that clearly. I also think this is a great question for Jasmine, because I just have a feeling that there's going to be something in working with minors that we should be mindful of as it pertains to potentially working on the weekends or evenings. So I'll make sure that I, consult with her on any insight she might have on that as well. Does that
Thanks,
help?
Denise. I wanted to add one more thing, which is a lot of times in the job description, people are presented like a general range of hours and days. And so it is really important that you spend some time with the young person talking through what is going to work best for you as a supervisor, for the project you need them to work through, and then for their schedule. And then to really establish that as that's the core schedule that we're going to have for this week, for the weeks ahead, and let that be the guide that you kind of set the expectations around versus what you might have put in the job description back in March and what they may have kind of confirmed what they said, like, yeah, I can work 20 hours in a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 scenario, but you need to figure out which days that will actually be for them. Our young people do have other responsibilities oftentimes during the summer, as well as other things, sports and activities they're trying to keep up with. So we really appreciate supervisors who are able to kind of like understand that and make a scenario that works for them in their project and for the young person.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah, there was a question in the chat as well regarding the, if someone gets sick. Oh, did you responded to it? Never mind. I see that. Never mind.
Thanks, Jeremiah, for reiterating that, the interns will probably have other things going on. So I think the more concise that we can be, concise isn't the right word, but if we lay down kind of like, this is what we're thinking, will that work with your schedule? I would rather us tell them what the schedule is versus them saying, but I really want to finish this up. You will finish that up tomorrow. If you weren't able to get it done today, it's okay. You can finish it tomorrow if they're not going to be in the next day, but then the day after, that is perfectly fine. I don't want to stress the interns out that, oh my God, I got to stay until this project is done. And I know that they're interns and they want to get the hours and everything, but at the same time want this to be a rewarding experience for them.
So with that, thank you everyone for your support of this program and the youth in Minneapolis and St. Paul, although I think they're all Minneapolis students this year. If you do have any questions as you're preparing to onboard your student, our contact information is here for you, and Jasmine's is on that other slide that I will be sharing this slide deck with you. So you'll have all of this information. But I want to just open it up at this point if there are any other lingering questions that folks might have at this time. Amanda, you can take that off the screen so we can see everybody, or mostly names. Any other questions? I hope this was helpful. Yes, no, maybe. Okay. All right. Wonderful. Thanks, everybody. And it was a lot of information. Dates, birth are on the file I sent to you. Yep. Okay. I did see that. Okay. Good. All right. Unless there's any other questions, I'd be happy to give you the gift of about 10, 15 minutes of time.
I think.
All right. I think I got the answer. Everybody have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Thanks, Jeremiah.